Now, I know, I have a lot of explaining to do. The thumbnail, the title, everything. But before we get into this, warning, no dumb babies allowed. We'll be talking about heavy subjects, and one of them is your mom. But seriously though, if you can't handle these types of subjects, then I suggest you come back later with a refreshed mind and some comfort food maybe, I don't know. Up to you. Racism. One thing I can say is most people or anyone can experience racism. All it takes is one bad encounter or one thought process to end up like a racist or meet one. And the worst part, 9 times out of 10, most people who are racist don't think they're racist. You can get trapped in this cycle of believing in this nonsensical, irrational, and hateful way of thinking, all because of misinformation, media, or family and friends. But one way to stop this is by being the information. Be careful of what you watch on media, or be that friend to tell them that, hey, you're kinda cringe. If they don't believe you, then let them figure it out on their own. You can't really easily change someone's mind or sway their opinion because you say something. But in this video, we're gonna go over what it would look like if you change someone's mind by saying something. Which I'm not saying you shouldn't say anything in the beginning. You should always say something. There are 2 different perspectives, a friend group and a friend. You might say, isn't that redundant? And you're wrong. Please keep your questions at the end of the video, but I'll entertain your question. In a friend group, it's harder to convey your message. It's usually a one-man thought process, or a mini scaled down version of a mob mentality, following one another because it's the funny thing to do. And with a friend, it's easier to talk to them one-on-one, allowing you to get more serious. With that, let's tackle the friend group first with Season 2, Episode 32, Peer Pressure. The episode starts out calmly and peaceful as Sandy and SpongeBob are looking up at the sky. The jokes always get me.
Ooh, you know what that cloud looks like? What? A flower?
But Sandy mentions that she would offer SpongeBob a race, but claims that she would win as SpongeBob says the same. I just want to take a minute to analyze how realistic this is when it comes to real life. You're chilling with your friend and out of nowhere, they or you might challenge them in a game or make something up to be competitive, because that's what friends do. It's fun and also harmless, until you take it too seriously. Sandy also claims that due to her being a mammal and a squirrel, she's the best at climbing.
I'm a squirrel, see? I thought that meant you were nuts.
I don't know if this is a joke on stereotypes where oh hey, I'm black so I'm good at basketball, but I think it's commentary on if you're with a friend, you make jokes that only you and your friend would understand, something that's a little bit more personal. And also you have to realize that not everyone will get and understand the joke you made in your friend group. Make sure you use proper etiquette and common sense when you're around other people. So I'll just chalk it up to that. They start the race with Sandy taking an early advantage. They both look like they're having a ton of fun, while SpongeBob is getting fucking obliterated by some rocks.
Yeah, but this is an accident. Whoa!
But at the end of the race, the laughs cut abruptly as Sandy wins the race. Now SpongeBob is actually mad. Big baby rage, butthurt even. So he asks for a rematch, but instead of climbing, it's running. Well, I don't know if it's run, but like they swim? Is it swimming or running? Anyway, he claims he will win due to him being aerodynamic. Nerd. But this is just like the opposite of what Sandy said, because they're both doing their strength and weaknesses. So they do the race and it becomes more and more and more apparent that they're taking it seriously and not doing it for fun anymore. I just want to pause here and just relate that to real life. I think we can all agree we've been in an argument or a competitive thing with our friends and taken it too seriously, damaging the bonds between both people. And sometimes it can get severely worse to the point of not just only hurting their feelings, but burning an entire bridge just because you wanted to win. Obviously, no one likes losing to their friends, but is it more important to win even if it means to hurt someone else? SpongeBob wins and they start bickering back and forth. Then Sandy and SpongeBob start fighting. This is the point where it starts to get messy and it kind of turns into a COD lobby with slurs being flung left and right. Listen to this with bleeps and it sounds so damn bad.
I guess we don't. Air, water, tree, golf, kite,
But back to the point. This is where the episode starts to get into the debate. Who is better, sea creatures or land creatures? And you can look at the episode as if it's from a literary standpoint, sea versus land, but if you use your imagination, it can be far darker. Picture this, you are in a friend group and you're the only different race out of that friend group. Everyone else is the same. For example, for Hispanics, one Indian. For Caucasians, one African American. It could be a mix of any of these groups. And later on, I'll discuss more than just race. And in these types of groups, you can feel really alienated real quick if everyone isn't on the same page as you. And in this case, Sandy is in that same situation, with jokes being made at her because she's a squirrel. But also, you can be the same person to make jokes at their expense as well. It can go both ways. But I'm gonna make this a little bit interesting. To make this even more of a connection, I'm gonna make this a little personal, a little seasoning of me in it. I was in Sandy's shoes at one point in my life. I had 4 people of the same race that would mock and berate me all because of my race, making jokes and saying slurs because it was the funny thing to do at the time. And it was all done at the expense of my feelings. They don't think their words carry any merit, but when people go through real trials and tribulations, they experience more than ever how it feels to be alienated, to feel different. I'm not with those friends anymore, nor talk to them. But if it was a reality where they got to hear how I felt, I would have told them to go onto dry land. Heading back to the episode, everyone goes and follows Sandy to dry land. But I don't see it as dry land, I see it how others' compassion for one another is dry. A little play on words, if you will. They start making their way up to the surface, still laughing at Sandy. They get below the surface and start to get cold feet. It is as if they're scared to face their own retribution, confronting those feelings they once decided to belittle, but now feeling the pressure. They even try to sidestep it by putting a finger outside the water. This reminds me of people who barely touch the topic when it pertains to them, but when it's someone else, they can effortlessly speak about it as if they want to. One by one, they jump up to the surface, cold feet turning into warm sand as they start getting acclimated to the area. But one thing I have to say is, damn, Squidward is ugly.
I'll be crying if I look like that too, bro. That's f***ed up what they be doing to y'all.
But with that, they start walking around and still feel cocky as ever, thinking that this is a walk in the park. But really, it's the walk in the sand. Dirty chum chewers. What? Look, I'm half sea creature. I can say it. I have sea creature friends. It's just a joke. Then, out of nowhere, the locals pull up to the scene. This is by far one of the most funniest and hilarious moments I've seen in SpongeBob history. So, Sandy waited the 1 minute, she decides to come up to check on them, and they're getting fucking millywhopped by the locals, running and screaming for their lives. Then Sandy starts squaring up and putting hands on the rats with wings, ending with them floating down to the bottom as they say their sorries. The ending kinda just makes light of the situation and doesn't really take it too seriously, but if we were to see the ending differently, it could have been seen as everyone making up to one another after things were said, because even if you hurt someone, you can always heal those wounds. Don't think that this can only happen to you. you can also be the same person who conflicts the same emotions onto others without knowing, because remember, mob mentality. Also, some of you might have been wondering why my example I gave was so vague and simple. I was just waiting until now to speak about it. There could be many multitudes of different groups of friends that aren't just my example. For instance, everyone could be the same race and still be racist towards you, alienate you because you're different. Happened to me before because I like anime, SpongeBob, and other stuff to be considered weird. And thinking about it more, it also could be not just only race. It could be gender, sexuality, or disability. Really, it's about how different you are from the group. Even new people joining groups can feel alienated. So, like I said, you can be the information, speak about how you feel, and don't run away from it. Say your piece and move on. If they can't reconcile or even act mature with you when it comes to topics like this, drop that friend group. Don't sacrifice your fun, happiness, and identity just to have company. Also, make sure you do some reflection. Are you stuck in this cycle? Make sure you're informed as well. It seems like it's harder and harder to make friends each year, but don't let that get to you. You got this. Anything and everything is possible. Don't forget what I said in the beginning though. What if it was just one friend? Instead of a friend group that's hard to gauge and manage everyone's feelings, what if it was just one conversation to handle? I think it's time to change course to the last episode in this video. Season 2, episode 31, Squirrel Jokes. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't that funny? We just talked about episode 32. Now we're moving on to episode 31. It's just something that I wanted to mention. The episode starts off with a comedy club hosted by Mr. Krabs himself, named the Comedy Crab. How daring. The first comedian skips jokes and starts throwing pies, and let's just skip that for now because a joke about your mom is waiting to happen. So SpongeBob comes out to do his stand-up, but that shit is failing so hard, it's failing faster than grandma's knees giving out. Like, he is the first ever to make the crowd go mid. So little bro starts to panic and looks around the place for something witty to say, and he just so happened to see Sandy with her teeth and starts clowning on her mercifully. I mean, no stone was left unturned. He was going all out with this one, joking on her until the end of the night. So, has he gone too far? Well, it's a tricky thing to say, but I think personally he's a big fucked up for only making jokes about Sandy. And after the performance, she even exclaimed how she felt. But with SpongeBob, being the that he is, brushes her off, saying everyone has to make jokes about themselves, but not demonstrating it on stage, aka hypocrite. But Sandy, being the cool character that she is, lets it slide for now, and they hug it out. The next day, she goes shopping for some deodorant. She's just minding her own business, literally doing nothing, and some eavesdropper dickhead makes a joke about her being dumb. Then, after that drive-by comment, some other people start pointing at her like she's a zoo. Even a mom gets scared that her child will catch the stupid from her. That is some wild shit right there. Like, unbelievably crazy activities. Because whether we know it or not, this has happened before. Maybe not only race, but also sexuality and gender. She is being treated differently, all due to misspreading information and jokes that are harmful. Like, these aren't your regular microaggressions. These are your advanced microaggressions. But I just want to say one thing though. Jokes that are dark or have dark humor to it, it actually has to be a joke. And I especially hate it. I really hate it when people are just like, I just have dark humor. You just wouldn't understand. And they treat their humor like it's top class. Sit the f down. You're not a comedian. You're not special. You're not on a stage with 1,000 of people making jokes. No, you're just some regular person that look at the news and you're like, oh, this can be turned into a joke easily. And sometimes it's really crazy. And I know this is like a foreign concept, but you can have jokes inside of friend groups. It's really simple. A lot of stuff can be inside friend groups, but when you're not inside that friend group, please don't act like that. It's not that hard. Like, it's so easy to relate relate this to real life. Like for instance, if I told you all black people did 90% of the crimes in the world, would you believe me? I'm obviously making a joke, but don't answer that. Just for the love of God, don't answer that. But do you get what I mean? It's a joke, and you have to make it clear that it's a joke and you don't believe it, or people will start believing it. Do you know what I mean? You have to say it in the right place or right time, and if you're not saying it in the right place or right time, it can just be harmful and disrespectful for no reason. Even Patrick starts to treat her differently, and he is dumb as a bag of rocks. But I digress. Let's get back to the story. Any respectable thing to do as a friend is to tell them to stop, and Sandy did so respectfully. SpongeBob agrees sheepishly as he starts to contemplate on what other jokes he could make. He goes out there and, well, let's just say he really did make the crowd starve. I mean, at this point, he should be named Famine. Everyone is egging him on to do squirrel jokes, and he thinks to himself, and let me remind you, he acknowledges that he could either A, lose his friend, respect, and just a plain out biggest L in his life, or lose his career. So like any respectable friend would do, he drops the mic and leaves the stage. Psych, he really came back tenfold. He wasn't gonna let his career die, but he did let that friendship crash and burn off a side of a hill. I mean, he even rubs it in her face by shining the light on her. He even says, "We aren't laughing at you, we're laughing with you." But really, that's not how it feels. He can't and shouldn't be telling people how they should feel. I don't know how to drive this message home any more than how it is already, but that's just a terrible friend thing to do. And even after everything ended, SpongeBob thinks he can keep his career and his friend without noticing how damaging he's done to her. But Sandy starts to cook and invites SpongeBob over, and well, let's just say she chokes the shit out of him, then almost blows him up with water to get the message across. But just understand that don't be that type of friend. Listen to someone when they ask kindly, especially if they listen to you beforehand. I mean, he had so many moments and chances to make the right decision, and then almost ended up a massive what's a good word? A dirty chum chewer. Hey, I was just joking. Come on. No, wait, I'm just joking. Don't be misinformed. Do your research and make sure you ask how they feel if you don't understand what you did wrong. I mean, we all done stupid stuff in a while. We should make sure if everyone's okay before just moving on. This is also vice versa, so don't think this only goes one way. Also, make sure to stand up for yourself. Don't let someone beat up on you because you need to hear someone else's voice. Stay strong and stick to your beliefs. Like I said, I can't say anything more than what the episode is already telling you. The one thing that I can mention is that it's easier to have one-on-one conversations than 4, so maybe try that. So with that, you aren't subscribed yet? Even after the thoughtful, funny, and good video? You're not subscribed? Huh? Well, while you're here, do you have money? Don't answer that. I have a Patreon and a YouTube membership. Please make sure to, help me keep my lights on. Or, oh well, if you don't have money, then I guess I'll take a sub. I need to get to 2,000 subscribers at the end of the year anyways. So take this outro and then make sure you've learned something from this. I don't know. Do what you need to do. Keep it simple, silly. Love y'all.